The Watcher's creed dictates that we observe and recount the events unfolding in the endless worlds. However, for some, the irresistible urge to get a closer look overrides our creed. So let us delve into our story, focusing on Kim Taehyun. Taehyun slowly opened his eyes to the sensation of being slapped on his face. "Are you awake now?" Taehyun, puzzled, as he looked at the individuals around him, realizing that it was Huku, the one who had bullied him during his high school days. He was confused about why Huku had suddenly appeared in front of him. The last place he remembered standing was in the abyss, just moments before.
"Sensei, why do I feel like you took a shot at me? All I did was convince a god of this world to take an interest in a porter who, despite not awakening, still tried his best to gain strength. As the last man standing, his lifelong wish came true. Taehyun fulfilled the conditions for awakening, and a mysterious figure named King appeared. King decided to bestow his authority upon Taehyun, expressing admiration for his will and tenacity. A blinding light enveloped him as King mentioned that a day would come when Taehyun would understand everything, and everything went dark. In the darkness, Taehyun heard a voice asking if he was sleeping. Later, he realized his eyes were closed, and people around him assumed he was ignoring them.
And now we got another pussyfoot with knowledge of the future that's given a second chance to change his and everyone else's fate. I won't tolerate a sequel to The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. That Tales Videos playlist is waiting for you viewers in the comments. So, kindly keep quiet and observe WB how the job is really done. Huku continued slapping him, but Taehyun paid little attention, focusing instead on deducing what had transpired. He recalled a mysterious man who had told him that he was now bestowed with his authority.
"No thanks is needed. I know I did him a solid with this. My actions were just making it fall under fair use, and it makes for a better story."
WB, no need for your comments. The onslaught of slaps from Huku continued. Taehyun erupted into laughter, startling Huku and the others. Huku concluded that Taehyun had gone mad, yet Taehyun's laughter persisted. Emboldened, Taehyun landed a confident punch on Huku, causing him to vomit blood and collapse, leaving his comrades in shock. With tears streaming down and a wide grin, Taehyun had truly awakened. Remaining motionless, Taehyun wiped his tears as the bullies activated their powers, charging towards him, mocking him as a nobody. A bully attacked with flames. Taehyun deflected it and responded with a powerful punch to the face, followed up with a swift kick into another bully's stomach, sending him soaring. Amidst the emotional moment, Taehyun acknowledged the exhaustive efforts put in during his 35 unawakened years, from fundamental physical training to acquiring knowledge of the abyss, monsters, various skills, and interpersonal combat. The bullies regrouped for another charge, but Taehyun struck them a second time, effortlessly rendering them unconscious. Satisfied with his victory over the bullies, Taehyun admitted the necessity of re-engaging in physical training. Glancing aside, Huku was struggling to accept Taehyun's awakening, driven by anger, transformed using his C-rank stone skin skill. Swinging his stone-covered fist, Huku aimed to punch Taehyun, who dodged as the ground exploded. Seizing the opportunity, Taehyun materialized behind him with a clenched fist, delivering a powerful punch. Dumbfounded, Taehyun observed his own blood splattered around. Huku asked what Taehyun was doing, and Taehyun pulled back his hand, realizing he hurt himself by hitting Huku. Huku punched Taehyun, causing him to fly away and slide on the ground, his face covered in blood. Huku was not satisfied, belittling Taehyun and stating that he was just a lowly, unawakened bastard. Huku continuously mocked Taehyun's chances against him, a C rank, with Taehyun possessing an unknown and unheard-of skill of the worst rank. Despite Taehyun's belief that he couldn't win, Huku was shocked to see Taehyun suddenly possess a mysterious power, confirming that Taehyun had truly awakened.
"Sensei, it's quite reasonable for him to have initial doubts. Awakened abilities come with varying ranks, from the lowest, F rank, to the highest known as S rank. These abilities also enhance their physical capabilities as well. And I think we've been saying his name wrong too. I believe it's pronounced Taehyun."
That tends to happen from time to time. However, staring at his own hand, Taehyun marveled at the unfolding phenomenon was a manifestation of his power. The magic responded to his will, leaving him uncertain about the intricacies of the event. However, one thing remained clear for Huku. Everything would culminate once he defeated the caster. As Huku lunged at him, Taehyun extended his hand, and releasing his skill, stopping Huku's advances. A primal scream escaped Huku as his stone skin shattered under the impact of Taehyun's formidable manifestation of his predation skill. Unnoticed by the students within the school, the surroundings transformed into a sea of red due to Taehyun's burgeoning magical power. Smoke enveloped the area around Taehyun as Huku succumbed to total unconsciousness, collapsing to the ground. Despite the visibly fatigue, Taehyun noticed a notification on the status window signifying the completion of Predation. By preying upon his target, Taehyun's rank ascended from F rank to rank E, and his hands gradually metamorphed into stone. The system declared the acquisition of a new skill and confirmed the successful registration of the skill, Huku's Stone Skin. In the aftermath of the commotion, Taehyun took himself to the school's clinic where the nurse was left dumbfounded by his entrance, bringing in 3 unconscious men. Offering the lady a brief smile, her confusion turned into a scream as Huku and the others lay on clinic beds to recuperate. Leveraging the nurse's healing abilities, Taehyun's injuries were addressed, and to divert any probing questions, he spun a tale of all of them rolling down the stairs. Fully healed, Taehyun left the school, reveling in his triumph of awakening and settling the score with Huku. However, a new conundrum surfaced with his predation skill. Its rank barely moved after a lifetime of training, but surged after a single altercation. Despite its F-rank classification, its newfound potency surpassed that of a C rank. Taehyun grappled with the mystery of why the enigmatic figure from the abyss bestowed this power upon him and triggered his regression. Filled with unanswered questions, he recognized the imperative to unravel the secrets concealed within the predation skill.
What I'm finding interesting is that this main character stands out from typical regression protagonists by facing a unique challenge. He lacks a predetermined goal or motivation upon being sent back. Unlike other regression characters who often embark on a journey driven by a specific purpose or mission, he grapples with the uncertainty of his newfound situation.
The blank canvas of the character's path invites a journey marked by unpredictability, introspection, and the promise of profound revelations.
You know, I'll gladly put down some cash on the fact that your brilliant lecture went soaring over their head, Sensei. Truly enlightening as always.
If karma has a sense of humor, it seems to be having a hearty laugh at my expense, for I find myself burdened with the enigma of having you as my student. Arriving home, Taehyun couldn't suppress a smile, acknowledging it had been a while since he set foot in his house. Orphaned after his parents' demise, he resided with his uncle's family, entering the house with the intention of seeking information on similar skills. He encountered a surprise. People inside, other than his cousin Jae-young, observing a box of money and recalling Jae-young's role in a previous encounter in his past life that placed the family in a bind. The leader, seeing Taehyun was Jae-young's cousin, advised him to mind his own to avoid trouble. Responding with a smile, Taehyun decided to test something, delivering a punch to the man, sending him crashing to the floor. The unexpected punch left the man salivating, shocking his comrades. Taehyun swung his arm towards the man, saying predation, frightening the leader, who pleaded him to stop. Confused, a system notification screen told him that the function was inaccessible. The leader was equally bewildered but sent a kick to his head, sending Taehyun to the ground. The leader and his 2 comrades unleashed C-rank bind, poison, and bleed skills simultaneously. Taehyun, standing amidst the skills, was stunned, unable to move, was hit head-on by the combined attacks. Purple smoke filled the house, and the leader accused Taehyun of pretending to be awakened. In the midst of chaos, the system informed Taehyun that the usage of skills had been detected and the skills were neutralized. Expressing his confusion, Taehyun retaliated with a punch, and he proceeded to beat the dog shit out of the group. Relishing the sight of the bullies lying on the floor, fighting them revealed 2 things. The status window was visible only to himself, with detailing information, and his current rank was now E. Contemplating why Predation didn't activate, Taehyun realized that factors beyond mana must influence its use. As he pondered, his cousin bowed down, expressing remorse. Despite considering him a fox, family is family.
Yeah, family. The ones that will uplift you to great heights or be the first to mess you over. But it is quite shocking that his skill didn't activate. There must be a condition that first have to be met before it can take effect. For an overpowered skill like this, it only makes sense that it has its drawbacks too.
Like how I couldn't choose my student, people can't choose who they are blood-related too. Taehyun's recent actions have cast an uncertain shadow over the fate of his family. Whether for better or worse remains a mystery. With no defined goal in sight, he seems to be navigating through life on the fly. The intervention with his cousin was more a stroke of happenstance than a planned move, showcasing the unpredictability of Taehyun's journey. As he continues to unfold his destiny with a vague awareness of future events, we find ourselves on the edge, eagerly witnessing the twists and turns that his seemingly spontaneous choices will bring about. Elsewhere within the city, inside a restricted area limited to authorized personnel, a critical situation that can go out of hand at any moment was happening. 3 individuals observed monsters trying to emerge from a gate. A gate is a phenomenon where a path to the abyss suddenly opened up in space. The leading man explained that it had been a decade since the last gate break, emphasizing the urgency due to the gate's sudden creation. Despite the imminent danger, the man reassured the terrified onlookers that his B-rank barrier skill could protect them, asserting that the C-rank monsters posed no significant threat. As the monsters relentlessly attacked, the barrier finally gives and shattered, leaving the man and the frightened women behind him in shock. The monsters, diverse in size and appearance, stood out from regular C-rank creatures. The man, a B-ranker, confidently claimed they could handle these C-rank monsters. Meanwhile, Taehyun, accompanied by his cousin, approached the area. Taehyun, aware of the gate break's initial estimate being C-rank, discussed the situation with his cousin, who figured that if what Taehyun was saying true, then what's there to worry about? However, Taehyun revealed a crucial point. His words were valid only if the dungeon was genuinely C-rank. In the restricted area, the man struggled with the monsters. Surprised that low-rank creatures could breach his barrier, he activated another barrier to contain a monster within it. Suddenly, a massive monster, a giant ogre of A rank, roared and broke through the barrier. With his strongest barrier shattered, the man was shocked, realizing the monster surpassed his rank. They were more than screwed. Simultaneously, Jae-young questioned Taehyun's knowledge of the events. Everything Taehyun had just told him was a hard pill to swallow. Truth be told, he was unaware that Taehyun had returned to the past and experienced this disaster before. To maintain credibility, Taehyun lied, attributing his insights to intuition. As chaos unfolded, monsters attacked citizens, instigating panic and prompting people to flee, recognizing it as a full-fledged gate break.
Well, isn't this just the cherry on top? Taehyun sure knows how to make an entrance.
With monsters running rampant and citizens in panic, for even the most adept can be caught off guard.
Well, if a dog chases his tail long enough, he will one day bite himself in the ass, that's for sure. And Sensei, it looks like Taehyun took center stage and wrapped up the monster situation while we were engrossed in our discussion. No need to worry though. I'm confident our viewers didn't miss a moment unless, of course, they were busy showing some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. But as you were saying, sir.
Back to the streets, Tien recognized that his previous predation failures were linked to fatigue. Tien's current fatigue level was at 52%, and he knew that if it exceeded 70%, his predation wouldn't activate. He acknowledged the complexity of managing fatigue, affecting both skill usage and physical activity. However, Tien discovered a workaround. He could absorb dead monsters to recover mana without depleting it. As he successfully predicated on the monsters, Tien's rank advanced to D rank, and his skills, including Predation and Stone Skin, upgraded to D rank as well. He speculated on the potential for substantial growth, envisioning the possibility of reaching S rank or even the elusive SSS rank. Contemplating whether to return home, Tien heard commotion above him. It was Hyun-soo, engaged in a fierce battle against an A-rank giant ogre. Hyun-soo, wielding a golden sword, sought revenge for the souls of the slain. Witnessing Hyunsu's skillful defeat of the monster, Taehyun was in awe. He realized that the man before him was an A-ranked Awakened, and the one who had single-handedly resolved the gate break in his first life. As Taehyun regressed, Hyunsu, in his emotional victory, referred to the defeated monster as an idiotic one who had met his end at the hands of Justice Sword Hyunsu.
Is he doing a prayer for that thing? Yeah, I'm going to say it since it may come off as a stereotype, but why are some strong characters created stupid in most stories? Can someone answer this for me in the comments?
Suddenly, Hyunsu felt a force strike him from behind, causing him to vomit blood as he turned to find himself attacked. The assailant confidently declared his presence, revealing himself as Han Sango, a B-ranked villain with a stealth skill. Taehyun, observing both men, wondered if his regression had altered the future. Hyunsu, fueled by anger, charged towards Sango. However, they were interrupted by a resurrected giant ogre, surprising everyone present. Sango, impressed with the ogre's regeneration, decided to leave Hyunsu to face the monstrous adversary. Yet, sensing Taehyun behind him, Sango acknowledged the unexpected spectator. Sango aimed to strike Taehyun. Taehyun activated his stone skin in time to counter the attack. The battle unfolded with Sango trying to overcome Taehyun's defenses, while Hyunsu simultaneously struggled to defeat the giant ogre. Sango, realizing Taehyun's skills, expressed surprise that his weapons were ineffective. Infuriated Sango activated his stealth skill and disappeared. Annoyed by Sango's hidden presence, Taehyun swung his arm, claiming Sango's attack was futile. However, Sango reappeared, slicing Taehyun's arm and causing his blood to spill. Sango mocked Taehyun, emphasizing the weaknesses of seemingly invincible skills. Despite using his stone skin to block attacks, Sango revealed its flaw. Crushed parts are replaced by a stone of lower durability. Despite the setback, Taehyun maintained confidence in his physical abilities, suggesting a hand-to-hand fight was still viable. As blood dripped from his body, Taehyun acknowledged the flaw in stone skin and proposed wrapping up the test. Sango, confused, faced an unexpectedly resilient opponent.
Sango appears oblivious to the predicament he's in, underestimating the depth of trouble he's facing. Taehyun, seemingly using the live combat scenario to fine-tune his abilities. With this in mind, it raises the question, will the upcoming ass-whooping require any form of censorship?
Sango, feeling a sinister mana, realized Taehyun had been hiding this skill. Taehyun expressed a desire to meet Sango. Sango laughed, but his eyes widened when Taehyun explained that he wanted to acquire Sango's stealth skill. Sango dashed towards Taehyun, claiming that Taehyun had gone mad after being cornered. Confident he couldn't be defeated, Sango activated his stealth skill. Despite Sango's elusiveness, Taehyun, using his experience with Predation, Taehyun realized that his ability was akin to the combined three great dojutsus of Naruto.
It's Naruto. It's Naruto, not Naruto or Naruto. It's just Naruto. The original anime tells you how it's pronounced.
At this point, I don't care. Now, as I was saying, Taehyun managed to hit him. Sango was defeated just before morning. We left off in our story with Taehyun having dealt with one annoyance. Taehyun took a moment and examined the new skill he just acquired. Meanwhile, Hyunsu struggled against a giant ogre. Frustrated and lying on the ground, he pondered if death would be the fate of the hero of justice, An Hyunsu. However, Hyunsu's body disappeared when the ogre attacked. Taehyun appeared behind the ogre, carrying Hyunsu's unconscious body. Taehyun says, "What the hell? You're totally flat on the ground after all. It looks way more comfortable now," Taehyun remarked from behind the ogre. The ogre, bewildered, turned around to find Taehyun standing there with a large smile edged on his face. Now, due to the level of cruelty that Taehyun is about to unleash needing to be censored, we will skip to the next day in our story. Now, the news announced the removal of the gate break warning, but the whereabouts of the giant ogre's corpse and the assailant remained unknown. Hyunsu addressed the media, modestly stating he wasn't the true hero, but no one took his claims seriously. Nurse Choi Nang, confined in the hospital, reported waking up in the evacuation center. Despite the lingering uncertainties, Taehyun watched the news, relieved not to be implicated. Standing before the dungeon entrance, Taehyun contemplated advancing to the next stage. As a D rank with 15 strength, 20 stamina, 15 speed, 40 mana points, 5% fatigue, and 40 over 40 magic remaining, he now possessed 3 skills: Predation, Stone Skin, and Stealth. Acquiring Stealth was a significant gain, but managing all 3 skills posed challenges. Taehyun believed potions were the best solution against mana depletion and fatigue. To earn money for potions, he needed legal permission to hunt inside the dungeon. Entering the dungeon of the Spider Sisters, intelligent monsters classified as B rank. Unsure if consuming hundreds of them would raise his experience points enough to change his rank, Taehyun eagerly ventured into the undiscovered dungeon. Taehyun continued his internal monologue, disregarding the Spider Sisters' warnings. Feeling belittled, the spiders, particularly one with pink hair, conjured a purple flame and launched an attack at Taehyun, declaring their intention to devour him alive. They were confident that Taehyun would be paralyzed, but to their astonishment, Taehyun emerged unharmed. A mysterious power resistance within him succeeded, and Taehyun calmly remarked, "As I predicted, you had quite the useful skill," leaving the Spider Sisters confused and trembling. Despite the pleas for mercy, Taehyun mercilessly slew all the Spider Sisters within the dungeon, and for good measure he did the same for the horde of spiders too. This successful predation registered a new skill, paralysis, on his stat window. Meanwhile, in the new South Korea Player Association, a meeting took place. The New Korea Association comprised 5 player centers, each representing a major guild. The guild master of the Nightwalkers and the chairman of the association discussed recent events. Ji Jinhui provided information about the Malignant Guild, a criminal organization with a sinister agenda. Yu Ah-young, confused, sought clarification about the purpose of the meeting. Ji Jinhui, with a laugh, asked Yu Ah-young about when she took the player test. Yu Ah-young mentioned taking it at the age of 19, but realization dawned on her as Ji Jinhui hinted at the potential of a high school student rivaling a monster in combat. As Taehyun immersed himself in his thoughts, 3 classmates approached him, drawn by the rumor of Taehyun's confrontation on the roof. The news of Taehyun's awakening surprised them, fueling speculation that he was now entangled in significant trouble. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by the entrance of 3 imposing figures. Slamming his feet on top of the desk, the leader of the school bullies, Lee Jung-jae, sat across from him. Lee Jung-jae, an S-rank awakened and the 3rd-generation key figure of the Taehyun group, took a prominent position, emanating hostility. As the mastermind behind the harassment of Taehyun, Lee Jung-jae warned him to tread carefully in choosing his battles. Undeterred, Taehyun told Lee Jung-jae to F off, rallying up the 2 lackeys that came with Lee Jung-jae. Surprisingly, Lee Jung-jae punched his own subordinate for showing disrespect as he was having a civilized conversation. Leong acknowledged Taehyun's spirited victory over Haikusu. Taehyun, ready for a potential conflict, had his focus redirected by the entrance of Lim Ah-young. The class president, along with many other titles, was also an S-rank awakened, model student, and a prospective SS ranker. Lim Ah-young intervened, urging Lee Jung-jae to cease bullying Taehyun. Lee Jung-jae, attempting to downplay the situation, claimed it was a mere chat. Lim Ah-young pressed him about punching his lackey, prompting a warning for Lee Jung-jae to leave. Despite Lee Jung-jae's defiance, he decided to halt the bullying, denying any intention to fight Lim Ah-young. As Lee Jung-jae passed as if he was leaving, he cast a flame and glanced back at Lim Ah-young in order to do a surprise attack. The imminent confrontation was diverted by an announcement from the school's broadcasting club. A special lecture by the Players Association was scheduled, providing a temporary reprieve from the brewing conflict within the classroom. The announcement echoed through the corridors, directing all students to assemble immediately in the main hall. The call was repeated, capturing the attention of Lee Jung-jae, who now found himself intrigued. Locking eyes with Lima Young, Lee Jung-jae offered a smile and gracefully exited the room, declaring Lima Young lucky this time. Unfazed, Lima Young maintained her magical power as a precaution against any surprise attacks Lee Jung-jae might attempt. After Lee Jung-jae's departure, Lima Young checked on Taehyun, expressing concern for his well-being and assuring him that gratitude was unnecessary. However, when Lima Young turned around, Taehyun had already discreetly left, his swift departure escaping her notice. At the door, Taehyun reminded Lima Young of the assembly announcement and declared his intention to head to the main hall ahead of her. Confused by Taehyun's sudden disappearance, Lima Young wondered if this was a typical display of his unpredictable nature. In the main hall, a sea of clueless students gathered, staring at the stage where Taewook, from the Players Association, introduced himself. According to Taewook, the association had two reasons for the special lecture. First was an apology for the lack of response during the gate break and safety training. The second reason was to inform students about changes to the player tryouts, emphasizing the crucial role these students will play in the future of the new Korea Player Association. While Taewook spoke, Jung-jae couldn't shake off his irritation about Taehyun being saved. Simultaneously, Ah-hyung was contemplating Taehyun and planned to discuss matters with him after the lecture. Taehyun remained unfazed, knowing that the real selection process was already underway through Taewook's observer eye skill. However, Taewook was particularly intrigued by two students, Lee Jung-jae with a score of 1,924 and Lim Ah-hyung with an impressive score of 2,335. He found it surprising that there were so many untrained Awakens, making a mental note to submit recommendations to the guild. Jung-jae, seizing the opportunity, questioned Taewook about the suitability of some candidates for the tryouts. He asserted that the lecture seemed irrelevant for unawakened individuals. This prompted Taehyun to respond, asserting that attending such a lecture would only hurt the pride of unawakened individuals. Taehyun, seemingly pleased with Jung-jae's agreement, announced his decision to leave the hall and never participate in the player tryouts. As he departed, he raised his middle finger, expressing his disdain for the lecture. Taewook was left speechless, attempting multiple times to use his observer eye on Taehyun without success. And it was only when Taehyun glanced at him with a smile that Taewook's skill finally worked. To Taewook's shock, Taehyun's overall score was an astonishing 5,096, leaving him in disbelief. Several hours later, Taehyun found himself at the library, engrossed in reading books. However, his tranquility was disrupted when he noticed shadows cast by three men. They informed Taehyun that Jung-jae was looking for him. Taehyun refused to go with them, and the situation escalated with the library suddenly getting destroyed as Taehyun retaliated against the three men, showcasing his strength. Taehyun later confronted Jung-jae, who was accompanied by his bodyguard, Seol Hoon-doo. Seol Hoon-doo's attempts to use status effect skills on Taehyun failed, leading him to conclude that Taehyun might be an A-rank Awakened. Jung-jae proposed a chat and expressed his intention to scout Taehyun for a guild he planned to establish after graduation. Despite Jung-jae's persuasive words, Taehyun's blatant dismissal led Jung-jae to assert his authority, aiming to instill obedience in his perceived subordinate. Seol Hoon-doo discreetly enveloped the gym in a barrier, ensuring the privacy of the impending confrontation. The ensuing battle was marked by the young men's relentless attempts to land decisive blows, each thwarted by the other's adept defense. In a surprising turn, Jung-jae landed a clear hit on Taehyun, following up with a relentless series of attacks, confident that Taehyun would be incapacitated. To his astonishment, Taehyun emerged not only undeterred, but retaliated with a powerful punch. Subsequently, Jung-jae blocked and unleashed his S-rank skill, the epitome of intelligence, enveloping Taehyun in a fiery onslaught. Despite Taehyun shrugging off the flamed punch to the face, Jung-jae found himself gradually overwhelmed. As the battle raged on, Taehyun's punches landed with increasing precision and force, leaving Jung-jae struggling on the ground, bloodied and battered. Even the bodyguard couldn't help but notice the shift in the tide, as Taehyun asserted his strength and resilience in the face of adversity. Jung-jae, rattled and unable to move, screamed at Taehyun, demanding an explanation for his sudden defeat. Hundo, equally stunned, wondered what skill Taehyun had employed against Jung-jae. Taehyun, smiling at the success of his paralysis skill, Taehyun had acquired 3 skills through Predation: Stone Skin from Hyuksu, Stealth from Sango, and the latest addition, Paralysis from the Spider Sisters. Taehyun strategically avoided using all his skills from the start, recognizing the limitations of C-rank paralysis against an S-rank resistance, along with the immediate disarming of stealth against ranged attacks. Instead, he focused on accumulating paralysis through close combat. This approach proved effective, as Jung-jae, despite his high S-rank resistance, succumbed to the status effect. As Jung-jae recovered from paralysis, he admitted underestimating Taehyun and crushed a stone to summon a flaming, gigantic skeleton. This new skill surprised Taehyun, as Jung-jae used a mana exemplifying stone to temporarily amplify his mana, allowing him to unleash his true S-rank abilities. The resulting S-rank skill posed a formidable challenge for Taehyun, and the unfolding events left Hundu panicked, foreseeing consequences from this intense confrontation. Hunsu cautioned Jung-jae about the excessive magic power he was wielding, expressing concern about potential harm to Jung-jae's own blood vessels. During their exchange, Jung-jae suddenly directed a flame-like spear at Hunsu, causing an explosion in the vicinity. Fortunately, Hunsu managed to evade the attack, but tensions rose as Jung-jae vehemently rejected being ordered around by a lowly bodyguard. While Jung-jae continued his verbal assault, Taehyun, slowly recovering, observed Jung-jae reaching his full power. The flaming skeleton, under Jung-jae's control, relentlessly attacked Taehyun, with Jung-jae expecting his opponent's demise. Hunsu, sensing Jung-jae's lack of concern for consequences, rushed to Taehyun's side, urging him to retreat and promising to handle Jung-jae. However, Taehyun, delivering a powerful punch to Hunsu, despite the setback, Taehyun managed to stand and escape. Taehyun acknowledged the vast difference an S-rank wielded, consuming elixirs to replenish his fatigue, stamina, and mana. With a newfound determination, he activated his Predation skill, enveloped by a menacing aura, signaling his intent to take the unfolding situation seriously.
It's high time Taehyun stopped holding back and unleashed his full power on those who underestimated him. Despite the temptation to engage in flashy, revenge-fueled theatrics reminiscent of Dragon Ball Z, he opts for a more strategic approach. Taehyun invests his time in comprehensive research, seeking to unravel the mysteries of his awakening and showcasing a depth of intellect.
Welcome back. I noticed your absence for a while, and for a moment I wondered if you had fallen asleep. However, it seems you were attentively observing how a recap should be executed.
No, not really. Taehyun's decision to approach the fight with seriousness signaled the need for his theme music to set the tone. However, the gem would soon prove insufficient to contain the intensity of the onslaught he unleashed. Taehyun returned and voluntarily reported to the chairman after discovering that there were students with astonishing scores of 1,900 and 2,300. The revelation left him astonished, unable to believe the magnitude of their abilities. Taehyun asserted that he hadn't fabricated this information. Upon scrutiny, the ladies confirmed the data of both players and had no doubts about their S-rank Awaken status, such raw gems that are already surpassing the level of A-rank players, the cream of elite talents. In disbelief, someone remarked, "At this rate, isn't she on par with Japan's Sanctus, the prospect of finally having a Sanctus-rank player in New South Korea?" Taehyun remained silent, absorbing their words. The Sanctus mentioned by the ladies was a renowned player in Japan, a formidable figure whose stats had exceeded 2,500 score at the age of 19. Even that remarkable achievement barely surpassed the 2,500 mark. Taehyun couldn't fathom the extraordinary nature of Taehyun's stats. He pondered whether it was a mere hallucination. Exiting the chairman's office, he resolved to investigate and verify the situation firsthand.
Because of that, Taewook thought about Kim Taehyun and his stats at 5,096. He wondered what's the deal with it. He considered the possibility that it might be a hallucination. He left the office determined to check Taehyun for himself. Back in the main hall, Seo Hundo was utterly shocked. He was kneeling on the ground and wondered how it was possible. Taehyun immobilized the gigantic skeleton by releasing a chain with a thorn that covered the monster, and it slowly extinguished the gigantic skeleton's fire. Jung-jae yelled, "How can this possibly be?" He asked how he can be overpowered by a scumbag like Taehyun. This angered him. "He's an S rank," he yelled loudly. "I am Lee Jung-jae." And this desperation made him summon every last of his power. But Taehyun just asked him, why the hell does it matter what rank he has? He smirked as he prepared to launch another attack. Jung-jae was caught off guard on what he saw. Taehyun told him that this is the king's power, and several rays of red light came rushing towards Jung-jae. Thus, the attack had hit him. It was quiet outside the main hall, but the silence broke when the main hall exploded loudly from the attack, and Jung-jae was left unconscious on the ground. The main hall was wrecked. Seo Hundo couldn't stop his body from shaking. Taehyun uttered, "Well, this is a surprise." Seo Hundo is blocking him from reaching Jung-jae's body. Taehyun didn't expect his A-rank player to drag Jung-jae out in the middle of Predation taking effect. But it doesn't matter since Taehyun still acquired the skill. Seo Hundo asked him what he's planning to do. So he asked Taehyun how he is going to deal with the aftermath. Taehyun responded that he's being shameless, and asked him again who was the one who picked a fight. Also, Taehyun scoffed and added that he looked like someone who will cower from a threat like that. Even so, he shouldn't worry since he has no plans on killing Jung-jae. In return, Taehyun told him that it's only right that he receives a price for Jung-jae's life. Seo Hundo was caught off guard. Lee Jung-jae is the heir to the Taehyun group and announced that he should get at least 1 billion won. Outside the main hall, the students gathered and watched as it was being reduced to ashes. A teacher instructed them to get back. The students wondered if it's some attack by a villain or a monster. Part of this crowd is Liam Young. She knew that wasn't the case since the feel of the magic and the fierce flames is familiar to her. She was certain that it was Lee Jung-jae's power. She wondered who on earth was he fighting. She envisioned him bullying Taehyun, which made Taehyun at his mercy. With that in mind, she rushed towards the scene. The teacher was surprised with her sudden action. As she dashed towards them, she had been filled with regret for thinking wrong. She knew she shouldn't have been a simple bystander in the main hall. She blames herself while worrying about Taehyun. She wished for him to make it out alive. Meanwhile, inside the building, Jung-jae is still unconscious. Taehyun stood there right next to his body, and that was the scene Young witnessed when she arrived inside. Kim Taehyun told her that she came at the right time since he needs someone as a witness. He immediately corrected himself and told her that he needs someone to help him move Jung-jae. Young was dumbfounded from the sight before her. Taehyun instructed her to take Jung-jae to the nurse's office, or rather, the hospital. Young finds it suspicious. Taehyun told her that this has nothing to do with him, so she should handle Jung-jae. He told her not to tell anyone that she saw him, and then he announced that he's now leaving. Young yelled wait and demanded a proper explanation. She was left speechless. Meanwhile, Taehyun had gotten far and watched the sky for smoke from the main hall. He thinks that the situation turned out great since Young will handle Jung-jae and the Taehyun group acted on their part too. So, everything had been settled. He then remembered something and opened his status window. He's still at rank C, but he now has a charm stat. It was at 5, and he received the Monarch's Heart at C rank, which boosts party members' stats. It consumed 10 mana. He was surprised to see the charm since it's an appearance stat for celebrities. Funny enough, he also noticed that the skill that he got isn't Flame Heart, but Monarch's Heart that boosts party members' stats. He didn't know that Jung-jae had a skill like that. He smiled as he thought that it's great, since skills that affect the entire party are rare, regardless of rank. As someone like him who will be using multiple skills, the Monarch's Heart, which allows any skill to be combined, is way better. While walking on the sidewalk, several black cars surrounded him. This surprised him. And the man said finally, "Found you, Taehyun." It was Go Taewook accompanied by several bodyguards. He told Taehyun that he has several questions for him. Taehyun wondered why that guy appeared in front of him. Taewook told him that he will ask the first question. With an intimidating aura around him, he asked Kim Taehyun what he did earlier in the main hall. He wondered if Taewook was asking about the explosion at the gym or the numbers that he saw at the auditorium. But Taehyun couldn't help but wonder if he already knew that he's the culprit and had made his move on him. So he decided to test it. He asked him if he's pertaining to the explosion. Taewook answered what, and then he understood that Taehyun was talking about the fire that they can see from where they are. He answered that it's a problem that other agencies will handle, and then he reminded Taehyun that he hasn't answered yet. In his mind, Taehyun wondered what he needed if he's not talking about the explosion. Taewook asked him again what he was doing at the main hall. Taehyun figured out that it made him smile. Taehyun expressed that the reason Taewook came to see him, he's sure that it's an invitation to the player test. Taewook was flustered, but decided to taunt Taehyun by asking on what basis he would say that. Taehyun slowly emits his power, and he showed it off without holding back, and Taewook and the bodyguards had their mouths wide open from shock. He noticed that it was more powerful than last time. With that, he assumed that the numbers he saw weren't a coincidence or an error. He carefully watched Taehyun as he wondered what he really was. He noticed and asked, "Why are your clothes messy?" That left Taehyun speechless. Inside a mansion, a man was holding his glass of liquor and asked, "What's your point?" He spoke that his one and only son is in the hospital, and as if that wasn't enough, Taehyun asked for 1,000,000,000 won for his son's life. On top of that, it was requested to deal with the whole matter quietly. The dogs beside this man kept barking. Seal Hoon-do trembled as he apologized. Seal Hoon-do admitted that he had nothing to say for that. The man answered, "Do what he wants." Seal Hoon-do wasn't expecting that. The man laughed and commented that Taehyun is quite a guy that piqued his interest. However, he uttered that there must be a worthy reward for the price that they will pay. Seal Hoon-do was about to beg the man he called Mr. President. He told him that the opponent is still a young kid, and that would be far too cruel. The man told him to stop and threatened him that he would not tolerate a barking dog. This man is Lee Jung-soo, an S-rank player and the president of the Taehyun group. But before we continue with this recap, if you don't mind, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. From outside their home, Hwan Jae-young can be heard screaming player test. He was fired up as he verified to Kim Taehyun his plans on taking the player test. Taehyun informed him that he will be taking it after a month. Jae-young was overacting. His respect for Taehyun spiked up as he called him different labels, such as King, God, General, Emperor. Taehyun thought of the incident in the gym and was assured that the Taehyun group will do a good job. He also knew that Taewook's suspicions had been eased. Since the exam is in a month, he decided to focus on his training for the meantime. He assumed that there won't be any more problems when suddenly, his phone rang. His phone kept ringing while unbeknownst to him. Two men had been surveilling his house. A man covered with white bandage choked a bodyguard while asking for the reason why the house is being protected by Players Association. He commented that it's annoying. The other man, who was wearing black overalls, speculated that it might be because the guy is one of those participants in the player test, and the Players Association cares for their participants like crazy. These men are assassins, and they are called the Black and White Brothers. Black has the skills Stealth and Physical Enhancement, while the other guy, White, has the skills Stealth. He answered that even if the guy is a participant, he's still just a kid with little experience. So Black answered and settled that maybe it's because the kid is a promising player. But in the end, if they lack experience, it's useless. He told his brother that they will show the kid what the real awakening is. His brother yelled loudly, and he saw that his brother was being choked and punched by Taehyun. Black asked who that bastard was. Taehyun then threw White on the ground. Black was caught off guard when Taehyun's knee met his face that caused his blood to spill. Taehyun told him that he's the inexperienced kid they were talking about earlier. A few hours ago, when the gym was burning, Seal Hundu couldn't believe that Taehyun asked for 1,000,000,000 won. He explained that even if he kept quiet about the incident, it won't just be him to decide for it. Taehyun told him that he knew that. He explained that he's just asking him to do his best to come to an agreement. He suggested that they would make an oath. The Awakened Oath is a contract method created by awakened people using magical power. The conditions are simple. Kim Taehyun explained that along with the 1 billion compensation he asked earlier, he asked Seal Hondo to do his best to resolve the incident. Seal Hundu abided by that. When the news reported that the cause of the explosion was a gas explosion and there were no victims, the phone call earlier was from Seal Hundu to notify in advance in any case of retaliation.
You can never go wrong with a good snitch, and Taehyun played it smart, knowing that he is incensed blackmailing a powerful company outright to save face. But we know better than anyone, and that is this Taehyun is only a teenager physically.
Indeed, Taehyun possesses the mental acuity of a seasoned 35-year-old beast that has navigated the abyss during his years as a non-awakened. The survival wisdom derived from such experiences stands as an anomaly. Despite being underestimated for his youth, Taehyun cunningly exploits this oversight. So back to the present time, Black prepared his blade for a counterattack. Taehyun effortlessly evaded all his attacks, and with a serious expression on his face, he prepared for a counterattack. He released his attack, but there was no one in front of him. With 2 blades on each of his hands, Black appeared behind Taehyun, and he launched his attack that made the ground shatter. Kim Taehyun peered behind the crouched Black and stepped on his head. And with a devilish expression, he told Black, "You can't do anything else." Deciding not to waste any more of his time, Kim Taehyun defeated the Black and White brothers. He wondered why it was happening again. A window notified him that he lacks physical ability, and because of that, Predator was not available due to overload, which only fueled more questions. The Black and White brothers were unconscious and tied up side by side. Kim Taehyun and Go Taewook observed from afar while the bodyguards watched over the Black and White brothers. Taewook thanked Taehyun for informing them. He inquired if he has any clue on who's behind the attack. Taehyun stared at him and replied that he doesn't know. Taewook entertained the idea that the list of participants has been leaked. He planned to request additional guards for the others. In his mind, Taehyun thought that it's best not to tell them about the Taehyun groups. It would only give him more problems. And the most important to him right now is not the Taehyun group, but the fact that he was notified that his physical ability is not sufficient and therefore predation skill is not available due to overload. He wondered what curse skill is that lack of physical abilities to the point where he couldn't use his skills. He thought that it might mean that he has to increase his stats, but he has no idea how to improve his stats since increasing levels by hunting monsters requires predation. This is also the same if he would hunt awakened humans. Taehyun tried thinking what he could do next. One idea came to his mind, but this was really not the ideal way, but he had no other choice. Inside the Blackhead building, a girl named Yura welcomed the customers. She is a guide at Blackhead's main training center in New Korea. With a smile and a cute posture, she asked how she could serve the customers. Jae-young couldn't believe Taehyun planned to register in Blackhead, where both money and skills are valued. Taehyun gave her his black card and informed her that the two of them were signing up. She saw that the card was SUVIP, and she was surprised. Taehyun asked to confirm if that's enough verification. She couldn't believe that it's the alchemist's SUVIP card, but she knew that accepting them easily could bring some problems. She wondered what she should do. In perfect time, a man who's showing off his muscles said that Yura is in a dilemma, and then this man told the kids that their place is not a place that they could just simply enter through the use of money. Iron Strongman. He is a Blackhead member and known to be a rookie killer. His skill was muscle augmentation, and one of his traits was that he renamed himself. Jae-young was impressed, but for Taehyun, it was a strange name, and he thought that maybe that man is stressed. Other members saw their interaction and gossiped among themselves. They pity the newbies for being approached and falling into the hands of Iron Strongman. Still showing off his muscles on his half-naked body, Iron Strongman asked the kids if they saw how people screamed when they heard his name. So, he suggested that it's better for the kids to leave, but he was cut off mid-sentence when Taehyun asked him what he's talking about, when those people are just weaklings. That made Iron Strongman's eyes sharpen. Iron Strongman asked if Taehyun is saying that he is stronger than him. Taehyun told him that it's up to him on how to interpret that, and if he doesn't trust him, they should just make a bet, and the loser will pay a year's membership fee. This provoked Iron Strongman, making him laugh out loud, and suggested they should begin. They entered a new world where their bodies became pixelated. This new world was filled with monsters. Iron Strongman challenged Kim Taehyun to prove his worth. They're seated, wearing headgear, while people watch their journey in the new world on a big screen. Kwon Jae-young recognized that the location is the Abyss. Yura explained that they are using a virtual training program called Virtual Porter. Virtual Porter sends the player to a virtual reality similar to the Abyss, and one has to carry a heavy load, defeat B-rank monsters, and reach the goal in the short time in the training competition. It is a common method used in training centers for ranking, but they find it very unfair when Kim Taehyun goes up against Iron Strongman. This one laughed out loud as he thought that he would surely win this fight. Iron Strongman yelled that a young man dared to bet against him, especially when his skill of muscle augmentation is unmatched in a fight, and also in movement. He bragged that his skills don't have any defect in Virtual Porter. On top of that, his lift is on a much different level, and he assumed that he would win and get to train for a year for free. But then, a bright light caught his attention. Taehyun moves so fast that only a trail of light can be seen, and the surrounding monsters are instantly defeated. He continued forward despite the monsters blocking his way. In just one big movement, he defeated most of them. He attacked them with a powerful kick. The monsters didn't even have time to counterattack. He immediately finished them off. Taehyun is feeling confident. He continued to attack the rest of the monsters that seemed like they're just waiting for him. And with that, he reached a 999 combo. Iron Strongman couldn't believe it. Taehyun told him that he only planned to attend for 30 days. With the heavy weight on his back, he admitted that it was a pretty tough workout. The onlookers were shocked while Hwang Jae-young stood with pride as he stood there holding a banner that said, "I believed in you." Taehyun faced Iron Strongman, who was far behind him, and told him that he won the bet. He added that he should pay up and get lost. 30 days have passed since the announcement of the changes to the player exams. The day that has been long awaited has finally arrived, the player license test. The host abode the helicopter as she announced that the Players Association has made a change by allowing minors to participate through recommendations. Participants of various ages from all around the country have gathered in the association exam hall. The famous Awakeners are known as unmatched in close-range fights, such as Iron Fist or Hong Jung-wook, an A-ranker. There is also Druid or Lee Gilsan, an A-ranker that has an incredible battle sense that makes S-grade afraid of him. The famous unmatched in Bizan called the Thunder God, Shin Yeon-bok. A grade SC is also present. A girl rumored to have the highest recorded merit among candidates for the exam is a Saintus-level prospect named Lim Ah-yeon, an S rank, and there are other uncountable talents scheduled to participate in the test. A girl is out of breath and complaining that the location is very far. She knew that if she failed to report, she would be fired. She is a new Sci-economics journalist called Reporter Kim Ji-ja. Her skill is typing and her purpose is interviewing and taking photos of exam candidates. She's way behind the line, and she knew that because of that, she won't be able to interview candidates and take pictures. She complained that being in grade E is useless. Taehyun is walking behind her. She turned to him when she heard him cursing and complained that there were so many people. He complained loudly that with that kind of crowd, the test taker couldn't enter. Reporter Kim Ji-ja clearly heard the words test taker. She looked at him while he's being stressed because of the crowd. He uttered how much it sucks. She recognized him as one of the candidates. She approached him to ask if she could interview him. From a bird's eye view, people were like ants around the association hall. Kim Taehyun is being called by the staff since the test is going to start in a few minutes. He explained that he was almost late because he had a sudden interview. He told her that he will be right there and he planned to build his image from the start. There were lots of examinees, and they all had a badge with their number. They looked around, and they were surprised. Even Young is shocked. Taehyun noticed her staring at him. Young did not expect him to be there. Taehyun was also shocked to bump into her and addressed her as the class president. She asked him what happened to his body, and he explained that it was because of the bit of training that he had. Young doubted what he said. She knew that he had awakened, but not like this. Then she proceeded to ask what happened to Lee Jung-jae last time. But her question was not answered as they were interrupted when they heard an announcement. The person addressed all of them as the young heroes who bear the future of the new South Korea, and congratulated them for being there. He told everyone that they are in the first trial place for those who aspire to become players. He instructed them to look at their chest since there should be a number on their trial card. In the first trial, they are asked to collect 5 cards including theirs, which means if they don't have any card, they are out. They have a time limit of 1 hour, and every method is allowed except murder. The players were surprised by a sudden shift in the room when the whole layout had changed. And with that, the man announced the start of the first trial. This is absolute madness. It was a free-for-all. Abilities were flying everywhere, altering landscapes. There were one-on-one battles, group skirmishes, and even gangs ganging up on S-rank players. The first exam was a no-fucks-given battle. The staff of the association watched them. 20 minutes has passed since the trial started. The staff were truly amazed with their abilities. But this guy was busy looking at someone else. Go Taehyun witnessed how the other staff was amazed. He thought that it's natural for Yeonbok and Lim Ah-young to attract attention since their ranking is high. He watched Taehyun engaging in a fist fight. He screamed what the hell was happening. Kim Taehyun is up against an A-ranker called Hong Jan-wook, who is using his iron skin skill. Taewook panicked and wondered if he had overrated Kim Taehyun's abilities since he is being overpowered by someone who is only at A rank. More so, Taehyun has not even avoided a single attack. He considered that it was intentional. Taehyun advanced toward Jungwook with a smile. He was met with a powerful punch from Jungwook. Jungwook was pissed off and asked if he's doing that to mock him. He yelled that stone skin is way lower than iron skin, but Jungwook's face paled as he heard Taehyun comment that he talked too much. A notification showed that Taehyun has increased 1 stamina and 2 charms. It had been a month of practice, but the seal of Predation remained integrated, and the best way he thought to improve his skills through training is to stimulate the body until it reaches maximum capacity. So, he continued to fight Jungwook. They exchanged punches, and Taehyun was stubborn to continue with his so-called training. He seems to be thrilled despite his injuries. The iron on Jungwook's face disintegrated, and he called Kim Taehyun a damn monster. A few moments later, he fell to the ground and stayed there. Taehyun won their fight and retrieved Jungwook's card. Now he owns 2 trial cards. Taewook witnessed that and laughed out loud. He commented that it's truly abnormal. The staff noticed him and commented that he seemed so happy, and they thought it was because the candidates are truly promising. He recognized the intense training that Taehyun did during the survival game. He uttered that he is truly unbelievable. However, there's still a problem with doing this. Even if he did that to improve his skills earlier, the fight had consumed too much stamina. In Taewook's mind, Taehyun should save stamina for now. By collecting cards from weaker participants is the best strategy. But unexpectedly, it did not go that way. He was shocked by what he saw. Taehyun stood on the platform while the other guy confidently faced him. It was Yeonbok. He asked him who he was. Currently, Yeonbok has already accumulated 147 cards. Taehyun didn't answer Yeonbok's question and asked him how many tickets he has. He grinned and uttered that as long as Yeonbok has more than 5, then it's fine. Their fight had started. It caused a massive explosion. Taehyun barely evades Yeonbok's thunder. Yeonbok continuously rained thunder on him, to which made Taehyun focused on running and evading, until he decided to cover his foot with stone. And when he found the opportunity, he went to attack Yeonbok with a powerful kick, but his foot was blocked by thunder. Their fight continued. Taehyun kept a bit of distance from Yeonbok, and he admitted to himself that he's a bit difficult to deal with. Yeonbok is covered with lightning and he blocked all of his attacks. In addition to that, Yeonbok is able to fight at close and long range with his radiant and destructive power. Taehyun wondered, how is he going to break him? Yeonbok noticed that he had stopped moving and asked why he didn't attack. Yeonbok taunted him to come at him, but Taehyun was caught off guard. Yeonbok went for him instead. He barely dodged Yeonbok's fist covered with lightning. But Yeonbok did not stop there. He used his hand again to attack, and Taehyun tried to keep a distance from him. Shin Yeonbok laughed as if he was excited to catch his prey. As he released a powerful thunder towards Taehyun, he asked him if he thought that he could run away from him. The attack electrified Taehyun, which made him scream loudly in pain. Yeonbok was elated and mocked him that since he's asking for a fight, he shouldn't run away. Taehyun groaned as he tried to protect himself by covering his body with stones. He made a huge stone on his hand and yelled as he prepared for a counterattack. Yeonbok broke that stone while calling him a moron. And then Yeonbok released a blinding light. That made Taehyun close his eyes. And when he opened it, he saw Yeonbok coming right at him while he's falling from the platform. And the Thunder God's hand was already charged. He was surprised at what he saw. Taehyun groaned in pain as the thunder covered his whole body. Yeonbok laughed at him. He was impressed that Taehyun could take that attack. Yeonbok never thought that there would be a person like him. He thought that in the player trial, only Lim Ah-hyun could entertain him. He was elated to have found another toy. He didn't realize that something was coming at him at full speed, and it hit him directly at the center of his forehead. He was confused for a moment, and he looked at Taehyun while wondering what happened, because he expected that Taehyun's attack wouldn't work against him. And then he was caught off guard with another consecutive attack that hit him in all sides of his body. Stone skin can't penetrate the Thunder God's fury, even if it is forced until it reaches its limits. It can only be broken due to incredible pressure. But in that place, the player trials arena, it's different. Because the arena is made to withstand even Awaken's strength, and unlike stone skin, it does not disappear even if it is destroyed. So, Taehyun thought of using it as a weapon, with the hopes that he could just break through the Thunder God's fury. He approached Yeonbok with a knowing grin. Yeonbok was pissed off and called him a cowardly bastard, and Taehyun's fist directly hit Yeonbok's chest. That made Yeonbok's eyes roll back. To Taehyun, Yeonbok is nothing to him. Shin Yeonbok coughed up blood. Taehyun was smiling. The staff couldn't see clearly because of the smoke, but they couldn't believe that an S-class lost against C-class. They wondered what kind of person Taehyun is. In his mind, Taewook remarked how Taehyun makes people worry, but then again, he was confused with the Hyun's actions. Taehyun collected 3 trial cards from Yeonbok, and he declared that all that was left for him to do is to wait for the test to finish. All of a sudden, an ice shard appeared. It directly attacked him. It broke the platform on where Yeonbok's body was lying. Taehyun was surprised at what he saw. He looked at the sky and there was a giant snowflake, and an orb of ice is starting to form around the platform. He watched as the ice completely covered the area. It was like a barrier, and from the giant snowflake, ice shards appeared, and several more snowflakes formed around the orb of ice. Then Lim Ah-hyun showed up. She walked towards him in that enclosed area. Taehyun was dumbfounded, while Ah-hyun looked so serious. He wondered why Ah-hyun was there, and he wondered if she watched his fight. Ah-hyun expressed that she believes power has responsibility, and power without responsibility is just violence. She told Taehyun that he is really strong. She never thought that he could beat Yeonbok like that. Taehyun is still confused about what she is saying. Ah-hyun assumed that he defeated Lee Jung-jae the same way. A look of horror washed over Taehyun's face. A Young started attacking him. She prepared several snowflakes above her head, and it rained ice. Taehyun ran and cursed from his annoyance that the ice is like a bomb. And if it continued, he knew hiding would be useless. He didn't sense that a Young was already in front of him. She kicked him, and it hit him directly on the face. He was shocked and was not able to dodge the attacks. A Young told him that during that time in the gym, she believed in him, that he's a different person than Lee Jung-jae, that he will not act rashly just for his own benefit. She continued to beat him up. She prepared ice on her fist. She told him that just by watching him fight, she already understood that there's an end to both Lee Jung-jae and Bae-hee Hyung-soo, and that was all his doing. She hit him with a large ice shard that threw his body off the ground. When the ice shard disintegrated, his body immediately fell to the ground and collided with an impact. Young reminded him that using skills without permission is a crime, and both of his victims are still lying in the hospital. And she informed him that she knew that he also suffered, so she would not report it. But she advised him to withdraw from the player trial, and told him that he doesn't deserve to be a player. Taehyun replied, "Who the fuck are you to decide that?" He slowly stood up and told her that she can't even stop the cruelty of Lee Jung-jae. So what the hell is she talking about power, responsibility, and qualification? He added that in the end, she just wants to beat him up by using player trials as her reason. Young was dumbfounded, and she confirmed if that's really going to be his answer. With that, she announced that she would no longer hold back. She made a gigantic hammer out of ice. Taehyun observed her. His expression was now more serious. The stone skin had been destroyed 100 of times and has long lost its function. And he knew that even if he uses stealth, the skill will be cancelled with the attack area. The Monarch's heart is already active and is increasing his stats, but not enough to change the course of the battle, and Predation is still sealed. Taehyun's remaining mana is not enough to cause paralysis in close combat, like he did to Lee Jung-jae. He knew he had one thing left to do. He dashed towards her. A Young prepares to attack him using her gigantic hammer. Looking from the outside of the barrier, a bright light emerged from the orb, and it was followed by a massive explosion that collapsed the ice barrier surrounding them. The staff who were watching wondered what happened since they couldn't see anything because of the fog. And when the fog slowly clears, Taehyun is on top of Liam A. Young, and up close, their lips are touching. A Young's eyes widened in shock. Since her lips are sealed, she internally screamed while being shocked and confused. What happened earlier was this. Taehyun dashed towards a Young. Then, she prepares to attack him using her gigantic hammer. She smashed her hammer, making the ground collapse. She intently stares at the area where her hammer is, but something unexpected caught her attention. It was Taehyun, and this guy leapt above the ground. At the crucial moment between life and death, Taehyun has only one goal in his mind, and it was a kiss. But the purpose was different. It was a paralysis-inducing kiss. A stat-changing skill is more effective in close distance rather than long distance, and directed inward rather than outward, where the chance of success increases significantly. So, Taehyun combined paralysis into his blood and made a Young swallow it. Considering a S rank that has monster-like resistance, that act was a bet. And the result was as follows. Taehyun got off her and a Young remained in place. A notification showed that Liam A. Young is exposed to paralysis and the resistance failed. And instead of being mad about it, a Young blushed. And since Kim Taehyun has done a fatal psychological shock to his opponent's mind, his charm has increased to 3. It has been announced that the first phase of trial is complete. They were informed that the medical team will now move the candidates to safety, and they have advised all candidates to wait and stay at their location. The announcement was repeated with the completion of the first trial.
Well, that was quite the ordeal. Absolute madness down there. I still can't believe what we just witnessed. Taehyun's performance, impressive, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. Abilities flying everywhere, battles raging on. It was chaos. And then Taehyun taking down two A-rankers. I don't think I'll be forgetting that anytime soon.
Definitely. From battles to power struggles, it was like watching a real-life drama unfold, but what really threw me for a loop was when Ayoung stepped up. However, the way Taehyun handled that situation was unexpected, to say the least.
Teenage boys. But hey, at least it's all over now. The first phase of the trial is complete, and everyone's safe. Let's hope things don't calm down a bit from here on out. But knowing these trials, who knows what's in store next? All candidates who were injured were treated immediately by the medical team. Even though Ayoung suffered paralysis, she didn't lose her trial card and was still conscious, so she passed the first phase. As for Taehyun, he managed to get 7 cards, and his unexpected achievement of defeating Yeonbok and Ayoung has made him the center of attention in that trial. When he was walking in the hallway, he heard people gossiping about him. He didn't bother paying attention to them. He appreciated the recovery skills of the person who treated him. He wondered if he would get a skill like that later on. But then, he heard someone yell his name so loudly, Yeonbok instantly attacked Taehyun upon seeing him while calling him a cowardly bastard. Taehyun blocked his attack with his stone-covered hand. Yeonbok warned him that he can use the same tricks in the location that they are currently at. Yeonbok continued to attack and attracted a crowd. The onlookers wondered if it was a revenge match. Yeonbok screamed at them to mind their own business. He told them to shut up and electrified them. And then he invited Taehyun to have a fair match with him. He told him that if Taehyun doesn't have those lowly tricks, he can show him how superior he is to him. They both felt a strong presence, and it seemed like gravity pulled Yeonbok to the ground. Taehyun struggled as well and noticed something. A man had appeared. He walked towards them while commenting about inexperienced imbeciles. This man continued to say that those are the people who can never let anything go quickly. Taehyun recognized that this man is the S-rank player, Park Sungjin. He is one of the strongest players of the new South Korean Player Association and a prospective double S-rank player. Sungjin noticed that Taehyun was still standing. He then raised his arm and released more of his power. Taehyun kept fighting the strong force to remain standing. He cursed as he realized the extreme difference between Awakened S-Class and Player S-Class. He never thought that it would be to that extent. Sungjin remarked how Taehyun is still standing even after that much power. He wanted to test him more, so he increased his power. A doctor and a nurse run towards them. The doctor scolded him for attacking students who just finished recovering. He asked if Sungjin is planning to get rid of them before the second phase even starts. Sungjin defended that he's just disciplining him. The doctor told him that he's lying. He accused him for testing his skills in the name of disciplining them, and he does that every time. The doctor threatened him that if he did that again, he would be reported to the head of the association. Sungjin asked Taehyun for his name. Kim Taehyun answered his name. Park Sungjin recalled that he was the C-rank who defeated Shin Yeonbok and Lee Ma-young. He was pleased at the appearance of an impressive candidate after a long time. He pats Taehyun's shoulder and asks if he intentionally targeted S-rank players. He went off while saying to Taehyun that he will be waiting. Taehyun was a bit confused. The doctor and nurses chased Sungjin out. After their recovery period, the candidates were again gathered. This time, they are in a forest. The candidates anticipated the next announcement. Sungjin stood on the stage. He announced that the second trial will begin. He explained that the location of the next trial is in the gate in front of them. Upon hearing that, the candidates were filled with fear and worry since dungeons have monsters. Sungjin explained that each group consisting of 5 candidates will enter the dungeon through the gate. A team with a player assigned as a supervisor will explore the dungeon. He instructed the candidates to take turns and enter the gate. Even beginners who have no real experience should be okay in a D-rank dungeon, unless they unfortunately teleported towards the double dungeon called Apocalypto. Inside the D-rank dungeon at the second player trial location, there was the first double dungeon ever discovered. Including the first explorer party, a lot of victims were annihilated, which led to dungeon break in various undiscovered dungeons. Taehyun explored the idea of them preventing that but the association will not possibly believe his words without evidence, and even if it was revealed, he will raise suspicions. In his head, he knew it was a shame, but he decided to focus on the task. And he thought that as long as he is not part of the first explorer party, there would be enough ways to survive. As he entered the gate, an uninterested expression washed over his face. A player announced that with his arrival, they now have 5 people. He asked everyone if they were good to go. This guy is Ma Dohak, an A-rank player that will act as their supervisor for the second round of the test. And a special note is that this player was the one who discovered the first double dungeon apocalypto. Taehyun figured it was the moment he knew. He fucked up.
Could he possibly have any worse luck than what he's endured today? Being a regressor hasn't exactly handed him many advantages. How did he end up on the team that got the short end of the stick?
Short answer, I would say, would be that no matter what, whoever gets assigned to that person is seemingly fated to meet their demise. On a deeper level, his mere presence might have triggered a reshuffling of individuals based on how they were ranked.
That's some pretty solid reasoning. If only his predation skill wasn't locked, this would be a breeze. But let's see how he maneuvers his way out of this situation, because I doubt kissing anything but ass will save him this time around.
3 monsters that looked like they were made from mud and stone attacked the candidates, but they fought back using their own unique skills and successfully defeated the monster. Their supervisor clapped and praised them. He told them that they were impressive. He added that such decisive combat intuition, despite this being their first real battle, makes them fit to be called a player. Taehyun is pissed off. He was unlucky to be part of the first discovery team. Upon looking at the Ma Dohak's ring, it is called the Sage's Ring. It is unique for it boosts strength, stamina, speed, mana for 10 times. With that, Taehyun was certain that the double dungeon, Apocalypto, is definitely an S rank, and he knew that if he gets swept in, his current self, whose predation is sealed, won't survive. With determination, he planned not to let them find the Apocalypto. Their team then came to a stop. The path diverges, and they asked their supervisor, Ma Dohak, on what they should do. Dohak told them that it happens all the time when exploring dungeons. He suggested that they should take a majority vote, but before he could finish his sentence, Taehyun bolted at the speed of light. They were all shocked. Dohak scolded him for acting on his own, so he advised him to come back. While running, he told them that it will be okay and encouraged them to go on the path that he chose. He thought about why he would leave it to him to decide. He ran off like a child while telling them to come. His intention is for them to take a different route. Ma Dohan was worried, but Taehyun urged them to follow him. In his mind, rather than letting them find Apocalypto, he would just rather die instead. Dohak and the other candidates chased after him. He was elated for guiding the way, until he stopped on his tracks because there's a gate before him. They were all surprised to see a gate inside the dungeon, but Taehyun knew it was the double dungeon, Apocalypto. He cursed for going through a whole maze, yet that is where he ended up. A candidate then suddenly wanted to check it out. In panic, Taehyun ordered everyone to stop. His reaction elicited confusion from the team. He raised his tone and asked them if they couldn't see it at the first glance. He explained that another gate different from the dungeon's entrance is weird, no matter what angle it is. He suggested that they report an unusual incident before anything. He wanted to get the support of Dohak in that idea. Dohak replied that it's his first time seeing something like that, and as per the rules, Dohak confirmed that reporting to the HQ would be the right thing to do. Taehyun let out a sigh of relief, but he was surprised with Dohak's next statement. Dohak suggested that they should go inside, but he explained that the mana that he is sensing from the gate, unlike its appearance, isn't dangerous. He added that besides, it's merely a D-rank dungeon. He continued to say that whether the association prepared the gate or it was an unusual occurrence, exploring it will definitely score the team good points.
Points? Yeah, right. I bet he's already scheming to capitalize on this discovery. Not only would it bring him fame, but it might also boost his player ranking. If you ask me, he's just talking out of his rear.
Due to his mixed emotions, he raised his voice and asked Dohak if he's out of his mind. He pointed a finger at Taehyun and asked if a member of a team who doesn't even know how to cooperate should be saying that. Taehyun got angry. Dohak concluded that everything is decided. Taehyun tried to protest and urged him to give it another thought, but Dohak had already snapped his finger, and they saw a white light. It covered the whole place. It was so bright that only their silhouette was seen. Taehyun was surprised and horrified. They all went through the gate. Dohak was stunned at what he saw. They stood in a large hallway leading towards a massive statue, and everything around them is covered in red glow. The massive statue at the end holds a sword. On a closer look, its face is covered in a veil, and its eye sockets are hollow. The candidates question Dohak on what's going on, and if he's really sure that it's a D-rank dungeon. Taehyun told all of them to shut up and look in front of them. One of the candidates was annoyed with him for being rude, but he did not pay attention and told them that something was coming, and he was right. Two figures are moving towards them, and these figures looked exactly the same as the statue. Upon seeing it, they recognized that it was an A-rank Death Knight, and they panicked. They wondered how those A ranks were there. Dohak felt a sense of doom. He instructed everyone to get ready for battle. The Death Knights rushed towards them and sliced them with their swords. The candidates screamed in fear while Dohak evaded the attack. He used his powers against those he called filthy monsters. Lava suddenly appeared below the Death Knights, and after a few seconds, the lava formed into sharp blades, and it pierced right through their opponents. The Death Knights groaned, but it had no effect on them. Dohak saw that as a chance and told everyone to attack. He strategized and told them to use fire and flash at maximum to cover the monster's sight, and then he instructed the one with the shield to defend the front line. The candidates exactly followed his strategy. The Death Knights laid on the ground. All of them were breathing heavily as they observed the bodies. The only female candidate uttered that they're finally safe. Another Death Knight is approaching. When they sensed it, they all turned their attention to it. There were another 4 Death Knights, and they were all eager to attack the candidates. All of them had the same horrified expression on their faces. Meanwhile, Taehyun was busy inspecting the body of the defeated Death Knight. He felt that something was off. He looked at their bodies. Ma Dohak is catching his breath. He cursed in his mind when he noticed that every time they defeat one of the monsters, they came back twice the number. On top of that, the candidates were all exhausted. Everyone is at their limits, and he knows that if it continues, they will all die. Taehyun told Dohak that something was off. He watched Taehyun's calm expression as he approached him. Dohak wondered who Taehyun was. After all that fighting, Taehyun is not even tired, and he was the first to realize that the gate was dangerous. And on top of that, if it was not for Monarch's stats, the team's stats won't be higher, and they wouldn't have even lasted that long. He's suspicious if he was really a C-rank Awakened. He then asked Taehyun what he meant when he said that something is off. Our MC admitted that he might just be guessing, but those monsters don't seem to be Death Knights. They were all shocked and rejected the idea. They questioned what they were fighting against all this time. Taehyun gripped one of the swords and answered that he's going to go and find that out. He also activated his stone skin upon touching the weapon. Taehyun has dashed right towards the army of the said Death Knights. He did not hesitate to approach them with an incredible speed. The monsters raised their weapons against him. The collision caused a huge explosion. The monster was confused. When the smoke cleared, Taehyun was no longer standing there. They didn't know that he was above them. Kim Taehyun ran above their heads, and when he found the right opportunity, he decided to attack. But he's not aiming for those moving monsters. Instead, his target was the statue. His sword was about to reach the statue. It pierced its head, and then the statue was shattered into pieces. But nothing happened, and the monsters were chasing him. All of a sudden, the monsters that were about to reach him from behind glowed, and they started disappearing. The whole area is being cleared of the gloomy red scene. Dohak was shocked to see that everything they saw was an illusion. Taehyun confirmed that it is indeed an illusion trap. It's a trap that shows an imaginary space and enemies. It's a tactic to drain the intruder's energy. One of the candidates was annoyed with the idea that they struggled just because of a mere illusion. Do-hak inquired on how Taehyun knew that it was a trap, and with a serious expression, Taehyun expressed that he knew there's no way the Death Knights would have been that weak. Do-hak was extremely shocked. Taehyun encouraged them to get moving before they all got killed. They walk on a dark path, and their only source of light is the power of Ma Do-hak. Taehyun is supporting one of the candidates. The illusion faded, but things did not get any better. After the Apocalypto's manifestation, the dungeon space was completely transformed. Yet they couldn't just wait for rescue. Their only hope was to find the dungeon's exit. After a while, they saw something above them, and Do-hak declared that they found it. The door in front of them was so massive that they have to look up since they're close to it.
Regression with the King's power has left us with an MC who seems to have no idea what he's doing. Is he just going with the flow or making it up as he goes along? Taehyun is definitely finding himself caught between a rock and a hard place.
Indeed, the situation with Taehyun is becoming increasingly precarious. His journey with the King's power has left him navigating uncharted waters, often unsure of the best course of action. It's as if he's caught in a constant balancing act between adapting to his circumstances and forging his own path. With each step, the pressure seems to mount, pushing him further into uncertainty. Yet it's in these moments of challenge that true character is revealed. Let's see how Taehyun rises to the occasion and whether he can navigate the complexities ahead with finesse.
Finesse? Nah, our boy's better off channeling his inner Captain America and punching his way out of this, or better yet, somehow unlocking Predation. It's time for some serious power moves.
Whether it's through sheer determination or unleashing a strategic game plan, he's got to find a way to turn the tide in his favor. The stakes are high, but Taehyun has proven time and again that he's not one to back down for a challenge. Even in his past life, he has shown this personality trait.
He better Cody Rhodes this, or this could be the end of his story.
The candidates find it suspicious and dangerous, but Do-hak told them that if they don't open it, they know that they will just perish in that dungeon. The door was then slowly opened. Ma Do-hak was the one that led their entrance, and from that little crease, he was surprised at what he saw. There were several skulls on the side, and at the center of it is a crouched knight being supported by his sword. It was the same monster as the illusion earlier. One of the candidates celebrated since there's only one, but later on, their purple halos glowed and revealed more Death Knights. The shock froze them. All of a sudden, the skulls on the side emitted fire that illuminated the whole room. It revealed that there were more Death Knights on the side, and the room had several floors, all housing Death Knights. An army of it stood before them, with a leader in front. They trembled as they took a look around. The pressure inside the room suddenly felt too heavy, because right in the middle, there was a Death Knight sitting on a throne. It spoke and addressed the lowly humans who dared to come in there. This Death Knight had a glowing purple mask on one side of the face, and he announced for the battle to begin. This right here is the master of the double dungeon Apocalypto. He is the Lord of the Death Knights and is at S rank. The surrounding Death Knights moved. In perfect synchrony, they all pounded the tips of their swords on the ground. The Death Knights marched forward. The Death Knight that was in front pointed its sword at them. The candidates were confused on what's going on and why the Death Knight acted that way. Taehyun expressed that it looked like the knight wanted a one-on-one duel. They panicked upon hearing that. One of them complained that he doesn't have any magic left in him. Taehyun told them to calm down and reminded them that their goal is to escape, not to fight. But because of their fear, 3 of the candidates bolted. They claimed that they would rather go back to where they started. They ran for their lives. One Death Knight saw them and acted immediately. The slash went through Ma Do-hak and Taehyun as it was intended for those who were running away. It directly hit those 3, to which resulted in them coughing up blood. Do-hak and Taehyun were surprised to see that. Taehyun was horrified. He yelled for his supervisor. He told him that they will buy them some time so he should go find the exit. But something unexpected happened. Do-hak threw him and the other candidate he's supporting away from the door, and Do-hak casted a spell. A wall suddenly appeared right in front of our MC. Taehyun panicked and asked what nonsense he was doing. Do-hak told him to shut up and reminded him not to act so high and mighty as a low-level awakener. Taehyun was caught off guard and got confused. Taehyun then admitted that he wanted to be an S-ranked player, but no matter how much he trained and improved, he only felt farther from it instead of feeling closer. He expressed that he sees this as an opportunity for him. If he could resolve that special case, he might be treated almost as good as an S-rank. Dohak followed that with a loud laugh. The Death Knight rushed towards him. He activated his magic and drew a triangle, and it sliced through the Death Knight. Dohak continued to speak with Taehyun. He told him that he's different from him. He hated to admit it, but he expressed that Kim Taehyun has the talent, and with that, he urged him to run away, to take the injured and escape as far as he can. He told him that it's the role of the supervisor to hold the enemies off. Dohak gathered all his strength for a powerful attack. Taehyun couldn't believe his supervisor. He turned to look at the candidates, but by the looks of it, they were already dead. And at that moment, the wall behind him collapsed. He turned to see what had happened. Taehyun saw his supervisor face down on the ground, and the sword of the Death Knight pierced his back. The sword was deep and made Dohak's backside. He laid there lifeless. Taehyun had a doomed expression on his face. The Death Knight removed his sword from Dohak's body and pointed that sword at Taehyun and invited him to a duel. He just stood frozen with a sword pointed at his face. Moments passed, and none of them moved. Something caught Taehyun's attention. A shiny object was in front of him. It was the Sage's Ring. He remembered that his supervisor wore it, right at the very last moment. He managed to evade the attack while retrieving the ring. He knew that this item right here was his only chance to make it out there alive. He wore the ring and Taehyun begged it to wake up. The ring's red crystal glowed. The Death Knight had him surrounded. The ring's light grew brighter than it was already blinding. The Lord of the Death Knights was surprised, because in just a single move, the knights surrounding Taehyun got defeated. The whole area was suddenly painted with an ominous red glow. The Lord of the Knights was confused. He ordered his men to wake up and wondered what kind of power was that. A notification window had appeared. It announced that the Sage Ring has been equipped and all stats are increased by 10. All conditions are met and the seal of Predation is released. Starting from now, the real fight begins.
If you're finding this
You
story
have to give him his flowers. Whether it's in this life or his last, Taehyun's will to live is second to none. In his past life, no one came back from this dungeon alive. Yet he is clearly going to be the exception to the original timeline. Kim Taehyun's eyes glowed red. Dark aura started to emit from his body. Several corpses lay on the ground. Taehyun moved so fast that he disappeared in a blink of an eye. While rushing towards the throne, he blasted the surrounding Death Knights with his powerful attack. The other Death Knights rushed towards him in an attempt to attack from above. He concentrated his power on his palms in anticipation of this attack. He assumed a combat stance while the Death Knights crowd around him. In his head, he estimated that the time to completely use his skill devour is 10 seconds. With that, he knew that he can't solely rely on predation. He thought of all the skills he had gathered so far, and all the stats he had built up. He decided to use everything he has. It's his only way to survive. Our MC even imbued and surrounded a sword with his stone skill. He continued to fight for his life, but he was caught off guard. Suddenly, a massive explosion happened. Dust and debris covered the area. When it cleared up, it revealed a gigantic spear firmly embedded on the ground. Taehyun wondered what it was. Realization dawned on him. He looked at the throne and saw that it was the Lord of the Death Knights that threw it. Lord of the Death Knights was oozing with power. Several gigantic blades appeared on top of Taehyun. He muttered, "This is crazy!" and the blades targeted him. It fell like rain, and every collision to the ground caused a massive explosion. Taehyun ran for his life. The scene was chaotic. Taehyun glanced behind him. He found the timing to leap high as the blades continued to fall from the roof. He was already feeling desperate. He yelled loudly as he continued to struggle and appeared in front of the Lord of the Death Knights. The Lord of the Death Knights prepared to attack him once again. The power of this lord started accumulating in the front of his palms. A spark formed out of thin air. And when it began to take form, it revealed a gigantic, dangerous-looking spear. It made Taehyun lose his balance and fall. While he was falling, the Lord of the Death Knights spoke to him. The Lord of the Death Knights told him that he was strong, but it was not enough. He claimed that this right here was a human's limitation. It launched its spear and created a massive explosion in the area. The ground was covered in smoke, debris, and the blades that collided with the ground. On a closer look, that massive explosion was actually the result of Lord of the Death Knights piercing Taehyun's body and stepping on his head. It inquired on who gave him that power. Taehyun yelled in pain, but he did not answer, which led the Lord of the Death Knights to infuse more power on his blade. The notification window displayed that he resists the Night King's roar with a mysterious power, and he was partially successful in resisting. Lord of the Death Knights revealed that he knew for a while now that Taehyun is not an ordinary human since he can understand their language. It then urged Taehyun to tell him the nature of his power. Our MC coughed up blood but continued to yell and resist, until his consciousness was gone.
What the hell is he doing? Once he placed on the sage's ring, it should be a walk in the park right now. He should have known that a boss would be stronger than his minions.
You're being a bit over the top with this one. In his current mental state, it's no surprising that it's going the way it is. Originally, no one survived this dungeon and he knows this, so let's just sit back and see how he handles this if he lives through it.
Well, if I was able to, I would have already jumped into this world and told him he needs to be standing on business, not doing the ground missionary style.
You need help. So Taehyun appeared to have faded from this plane and entered another realm where he faced Asmodeus. He took a closer look at the unmoving Asmodeus. He checked its face for any sign of movement. He checked his surroundings and saw several bodies lined up on the ground on his left, one of which is Mod Dohak's body. He was surprised to see it. Little did he know that the Lord of the Death Knights was behind him. To Taehyun, it felt like nothing had changed since then. He started questioning the nature of the predation skill, and how come he, a human, understood the language of demons and gained power and opportunity without understanding anything. Lord of the Death Knights was ready to strike him from behind, while Taehyun was consumed with his thoughts that nothing has changed. Lord of the Death Knights released his attack without Taehyun sensing him. All Taehyun thought of was the reason why the king gave him the power. All of a sudden, he heard a voice which said that should have already been explained. He was surprised, and in front of him, a bright light emerged. From that bright light, the king appeared. The king answered all his questions by saying that everything was merely because of admiration to his will and perseverance. He told Taehyun that he doesn't have to change. Taehyun's shock expression remained on his face while he absorbed it all in. King told him to just move forward.
The final boss says,
"Respect my authority!"
After that encounter, he immediately opened his eyes. He's back in the real world where Apocalypto loomed over his body. The Lord of the Death Knights asked him if he now lacked the courage to speak. It called him a pathetic human as it planned to end Taehyun. But the Lord of the Death Knights was in for a surprise. Taehyun moved at the speed of light. He moved quickly and with massive power that he cut off the arm of the Lord of the Death Knights, and then he proceeded to attack the surrounding Death Knights. The Lord of the Death Knights observed him carefully. Taehyun, who was standing in front of the Lord of the Death Knights, was oozing with power. This prompted Lord of the Death Knights to call him scum since he overloaded his skill to that point. Taehyun yelled loudly as more power coursed through his body. The notification window appeared 3 times, indicating the increase of his magic power by 1. Lord of the Death Knights was amused by Taehyun's final struggle. It ran towards Taehyun, excited to see his end. It swung its dangerous weapon, and it encapsulated Kim Taehyun with a powerful beam. It continued to release its power on this attack while watching Taehyun closely. But that attack seemed to have no effect on Taehyun. Our MC asked the Lord of the Death Knights if he's still curious about the nature of his power. Lord of the Death Knights was taken aback. In response to Lord of the Death Knight's curiosity, Taehyun taunted him to discover it for himself, which was followed by a potent energy gathering in Taehyun's hands. A notification window displayed that the rank is changed to B. Taehyun released the destructive power towards Apocalypto. This made Lord of the Death Knights yell from the agonizing pain. But Taehyun did not stop there. He grabbed a weapon, and with menacing eyes, he dashed forward and sliced Lord of the Death Knights several times using his weapon. None of his attacks were blocked. Lord of the Death Knights screamed. His anger rose. This led the Lord of Death Knights to produce several blades out of thin air. The Lord of the Death Knights couldn't accept that a mere human did that. It counterattacked with all its might, but Kim Taehyun remained calm and concentrated on the power of his hand. He raised his fist while his power surrounds it. Slowly, his power around the fist began to take form. It extended like its forming limbs. But when he released it, it was a red entity with a wide mouth and sharp fangs. Lord of the Death Knights yelled as it saw its mouth coming closer. Taehyun, with a fierce expression on his face, corrected the Lord of the Death Knights as he says that it's not human. He added, "It's the power of the king." And this menacing entity devoured the Lord of the Death Knights, completely erasing its existence. That caused a massive explosion in the air, and the notification window displayed that Taehyun gained a new skill called Knight's King Spirit. Meanwhile, on the starting area of the trial, people in ambulance cars were on standby. They carefully observed the portal. The organizers checked the remeasured power and found out a worrying result. It was S rank. Because of that, they issued an evacuation order, but the evacuation was delayed due to the dungeon's transformation. They wondered if the support troops could arrive before the dungeon break. Park Sungjin was stressed out on the sudden appearance of an S-rank magic power in a D-rank dungeon all of a sudden. He knew that if the situation continued, everyone could die. That made him think that he has to go in alone. But to their surprise, there was another activity in a dungeon. It was a dungeon break. They did not expect it so soon. Sungjin advised everyone to get ready. The dungeon emitted a bright light. Everyone waited in anticipation, yet Sungjin became confused when he saw the only person coming out from it. It was Kim Taehyun. He uttered, "I barely made it back." Thanks to Taehyun's efforts, the double dungeon incident was resolved. The students managed to evacuate without any significant harm. The second exam results were decided based on the scores before the examination. The bodies of the deceased were discovered and safely returned to their families. And they resolved another issue, that it was not to disclose who cleared Apocalypto.
See, that's what I'm talking about. All that self-doubt was slowing down his reaction speed. Our boy had to have been in tighter spots than this. Coming out of those alive with no powers, he had to have kept his wits in moments of crisis. It's a good thing King came down when he did and talked some sense into his head. Our boy really lost it in his panic, but you can go on. As you were saying,
Go Tae-wook and Park Sungjin listen as their superior informs them that the organization might face criticism from the media. But if they revealed the truth, Taehyun would become a target for the media and hunters. Tae-wook and Sungjin answered positively despite knowing the risks. Ji Jin-wai thanked them. Then he proceeded to ask what the two of them were thinking. His question was about Taehyun, but as per their agreement not to disclose who it was, he corrected himself by saying the actual skills of the person who cleared the S-rank dungeon Apocalypto. Sungjin considered that this person cleared an S rank by himself. He assumed that the person is at least on the S rank level. Tae-wook added that the person's actual rank is still much lower, so it would be hard to gauge the extent of the power. Ji Jin-wei had an inkling on where the conversation was going. Go Tae-wook and Sungjin exchanged glances. They were all thinking of the same thing, that there's a high possibility that Taehyun, who cleared the dungeon, would become national power level in the realm where the sun is blocked by a dark object and the sky is crimson red. Taehyun had a surprised expression on his face. Monsters were everywhere in that area, and they all seemed to be heading in one direction. Taehyun watched them from a cliff. He couldn't believe his eyes. He wondered why he was in the abyss. And then the king appeared in the sky, in front of the dark round object blocking the sun. King stood there, floating in the air. Our MC was surprised to see him again. But aside from him, the monsters also saw the king, and it made them enraged. King extended his hand, and on his palm a gust of wind gathered, and in a single attack, he instantly cleared a row of monsters. Taehyun watched as the bodies of the monsters turned into specks of light. He couldn't fathom that it happened, and he heard the king say, "I'll be waiting." The king started to rise up to the now white sky. Taehyun, with a surprised expression on his face, listened to the king. Before the king fully vanished, it stated that he will be in the deepest part of the abyss. Taehyun's stay at the abyss ended, and that's when he regained consciousness in the hospital. He was breathing heavily. He checked his body and pondered if what he saw was a dream. But he knew it felt too real for just a dream. He recalled that the king said that he would be waiting. He wondered what it meant, and then he thought of the predator that even S-ranked monsters are wary of. Then, understanding the language of the monsters too, more and more questions from him arise. He thought that becoming stronger and going to the abyss is the only way. He then checked his status window. Right now, he is at B rank with a strength, speed, and stamina of 100. He now has the following skills, which are Predation, Stone Skin, Stealth, Paralysis, Monarch's Heart, and Knight's King Spirit. His suspicions were confirmed when he saw that he was at B rank and had obtained the Night King Spirit. He had a hunch during his fight with the Lord of the Death Knights and was happy to see that he was right. He reached B rank, and with his stats, he is now almost on par with S-rank players. He remembered that the Night King's disposition is a skill that suppressed him with tremendous pressure. He knew that with the rate of his growth, becoming national power level isn't far off. All of a sudden, he heard a loud noise outside his hospital room. When the door was fully opened, it revealed Young, and the guards in front of the door were defeated on the ground. She smiled at Kim Taehyun and uttered, "Darling." Out of the blue, they rode in a car. The driver was on the back seat and was insisting that he should be the one to drive, but the guildmaster dismissed him. Yoon was on the wheel, and Taehyun was on the passenger seat. She told the driver that he is her guest, so she will be the one to drive. Taehyun, while staring out the window, asked what she needs from him. Given that she's the guildmaster of one of the major 4 guilds, Yoon made her answer light by saying that she wanted to see the kid who survived Apocalypto and drive him home from the hospital. Taehyun was dubious. He told her to come up with a more plausible lie. Yoon commented that Taehyun is a sharp kid. Then she asked if he knew how the third player exam is conducted. She explained that the third exam is similar to the survival test, like the first one, but unlike the first exam, outsiders can watch from the stands. Then she elaborated that Taehyun's skill will be revealed and surely the guilds will start coveting a lower awakened who can even defeat SR ranks. Taehyun kept listening. Yoon extended her hand to him while telling him that she will make an offer that he won't be able to refuse. She asked if what he wants is money or maybe fame. She assured him that she will give her what he wants if he joins the Nightwalker. Taehyun watched her with a blank expression on his face. None of them wanted to back down on their staring contest. While the driver on the back seat was feeling uncomfortable witnessing the tense situation, eventually, Taehyun answered that he was not interested. Yoon couldn't help but feel surprised. She expressed it when she said, "What did you say?" Upon arriving at their destination, Taehyun thanked Yoon for seeing him off. He told them that he will be walking from there, but Yoon did not easily let him go. She demanded an explanation on why he wouldn't join. She reiterated that whether it's salary or any other condition, she will give it to him. Then she started speculating that he already received an offer from another guild, or that maybe Taehyun did not fully understand her. Deep inside Taehyun, he finds the situation annoying. Taehyun explained that there's no special reason. He told her that there's no guild or condition offered to him. He inquired if Nightwalker's guild is really that special. In a confident manner, he told her that he's just saying no, just because he doesn't want to. He bid her goodbye. He happily descended the staircase, not sensing any danger or suspicious movements from Yuayon. But a hand reached out, and she covered his mouth with her hand. It was like he was being kidnapped. He turned to look at him, and he saw Yuayon furious and his power oozing out from her body as she asked him, "What the hell is your deal?" She told him that he's just getting started at becoming a player, and yet he dared to reject one of the 4 great guilds without a reason. She expressed that it made no sense. She removed her hand from his mouth, and she told him that she will forgive him. She turned his head to make him look at her while she stated, in fact, "I like you," in a seductive manner. The driver who witnessed everything panicked that she will cause him harm, so he reminded the guildmaster that Taehyun is still just a test taker, and then he scolded Taehyun for rejecting the guildmaster without any reason. He urged him to accept the offer since he'll have to join a guild sometime anyways. Taehyun grinned and commented how he had observed that the stubbornness was the same. He added that it was as he expected from Liam, a young sister. Yuayon was taken aback. She mumbled on how he knew about that. Taehyun told her that he knew a lot of things and revealed that he knew about the stolen name too. Yuayon froze in shock, but that did not last long when Yuayon released all of her power that was like a beam reaching through the sky, and it illuminated a wide area. With all of her strength, she grabbed him on his neck. The driver knew how bad the situation was. He knew the secret of their guildmaster. Yuayong's real name was actually Lim Ah-young, Yuksung Group's CEO. Liam Cheng-young raised her, a child born out of wedlock, as an heir. But when another daughter was born into the family, her name Lim Ah-young was taken away, and she was reduced to an outsider. The fact that she changed her surname when she became a player is an information that only a few people should know. Yuayong was furious. "Dare you yap away that nonsense in front of me?" Taehyun replied that she's the one who started it. That made her confused. Notification window displayed that a mysterious force is resisting the Amazon spirit, and the resistance was successful. Kim Taehyun released his power, and he removed her hand on his neck by squeezing it tight. A new notification window displayed that she is being countered with Night King's spirit, and the counterattack was successful. That made Ah-young keep her distance from him. She watched him carefully as she pondered what kind of power he had. Her hand was already trembling just because she got repelled. She thought that, as if it wasn't enough that he was able to bear an S-rank player's powers, he also reversed it back at her. Taehyun's power slowly vanishes, and he looks at her. She was slightly nervous. He ascended the stairs and walked towards her. She was backed into the wall when Taehyun cornered her. And then, he warned her not to cross the line. With emphasis, he called her a young sister, Ms. Ah-young. She bit her lip in anger. But Ah-young blushed a little. The driver couldn't believe that Taehyun just said that. A day passed, and now many people are on their way to the Colosseum. The Colosseum, nostalgic of ancient Rome, is the venue of the 3rd round of player tryouts. Unlike the 1st and 2nd rounds that weren't revealed to the public, round 3 is allowed an audience. So, people from the industry, families of the test takers, and civilians are also in the arena as an audience to watch the tryouts. Ah-young, disguised as a civilian, was present to keep an eye on Taehyun. Taehyun's uncle and aunt were also there. They are thankful to Taehyun because they could watch something like that because of him. However, they looked nervous. His aunt was worried since she heard that player tryouts are really fierce. On the other hand, Hwang Jae-young was so confident and proud of his cousin that he even made a customized shirt to cheer for him. He assured his parents that they don't have to worry since Taehyun is strong. With exaggerated moves, he narrated that he could take all of the participants in just one blow. He emphasized that it was just one blow. It was funny how Hwang Jae-young, a cousin of Taehyun, had become the president of Kim Taehyun's fans club, which currently only has one member. He was all fired up. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bench, the reporter was nervous. She took a mental note that she gotta get her hands on a proper news item this time. She is Kim Ji-ja, a Psy-economic rookie reporter, and she's on the verge of being fired. Her last interview got scrapped for featuring a low-rank Awakened. and she assumed that Kim Taehyun, whom she interviewed, must have already been disqualified. Now she's worried about getting fired if she doesn't get a good interview this time. The person beside her commented that the atmosphere felt strange. She heard that and checked the arena. Taehyun was standing there, but a crowd of test takers kept their distance while also observing him. She took a closer look. She saw that there are countless high-ranking veteran Awakened. And then there's also Lee Gilsan, the A-ranker who is a promising candidate. Ji-jun noticed that all these players were staring at just one guy. She speculated that they are trying to take down that one guy by joining forces. She wondered how strong the guy is for them to do that. With careful observation, she noticed that the guy is familiar to her. The round 3 of the player tryouts was about to begin, but one of the test takers wore a sinister smile. It was Kim Taehyun, and he maintained his smile even when he was already being surrounded. The announcer advised the viewers to be cautious of the shock while watching. The test had begun. Taehyun remained calm and confident. It even looked like he was thrilled. It was him versus the world scenario. And in his mind, he thought, nah, I'd win. When the go signal was given, the players immediately engaged in battle. They did not hold back, unleashing their power towards the center. That is where Kim Taehyun is, and they knew that if they don't eliminate him first, hell take them all down. Amidst the concentrated power in the middle, Taehyun emerged. Taehyun tightened his fist as rocks started covering it, and with a powerful strike, he punched the surrounding candidates. Several players coughed blood as they lost consciousness. Taehyun watched them as the smoke cleared. All of a sudden, he heard a rustling noise from the ground. Vines appear, and these bright green vines grabbed Taehyun. And then he heard the controller of the vines laugh, but those vines were easily destroyed by Taehyun. And once he broke free, he stomped on Gilsan's head. Taehyun asked for the next contender. The other candidates called him a monster. They teamed up and planned to continuously attack Taehyun without stopping. They thought that if they keep attacking, it will exhaust Taehyun at some point. Kim Taehyun confidently pointed his fingers at them, and he activated the Night King's spirit. The other candidates charged simultaneously towards him, but they stopped on their tracks and was horrified at what they saw. They were pulled down by gravity, and all of them lay on their stomachs while watching a gigantic skeleton before them. The skeleton made a loud noise, and the candidates felt the intense pressure pulling their bodies towards the ground. Even the audience and the members of the organization were surprised to witness this. Taehyun continued that force. Even the leader of a powerful guild felt it. Yoo called him a lunatic for using that in the dead center. After a few moments, the smoke in the arena had cleared, and it was revealed that Kim Taehyun was the only one standing at the center. He glanced at his side to check the remaining one. She saw an injured girl walking towards him. It was Lee Ma-young. She was breathing heavily. Taehyun asked what she wanted to do. Lee Ma-young glared at him. Taehyun challenged her if she wanted to have a repeat of the first round. That made Lee Ma-young blushed and embarrassed. She released her power. The ice had started forming, until it entrapped them in an ice stone. Taehyun thought this again. Lee Ma-young brought out her spear, and she told Taehyun that he should worry about himself. Taehyun dared her if she's sure about that. The whole area seemed cold with the blizzard. A trail of wind was left while half of Lee Ma-young's spear was stuck on the ground, and the wind had moved her hair as she was falling to the ground while Taehyun stood beside her. She landed with a loud thud. She lost consciousness. She had met Taehyun's expectations, and with that, the host announced that the player tryouts have ended. The crowd listened as the top qualifier of the player tryouts was announced, and it was applicant No. 920, Kim Taehyun. He was presented with his rewards for placing as the top qualifier. In a private setting, the chairman, Ji Jinwei, congratulated him on becoming an S-rank player. Jinwei expressed that he didn't expect him to single-handedly end the third round, and the chairman laughed loudly. Taehyun replied that he was just lucky. The chairman observed him. He called Taehyun's name, and then he invited him to join the new South Korea Player Association. Taehyun was taken aback. Jinwei asked him for his thoughts on working for the new South Korea Player Association. And with this, I would say, The story's initial arc concludes with a profound transformation for Taehyun Kim. Despite a lifetime of being perceived as a loser due to his inability to awaken, he experiences a momentous awakening when faced with death. This awakening grants him the ability to create a gate leading to the king, and with his power, Taehyun regressed to his 19-year-old self and the formidable skill of Devour. With this second chance at life, Taehyun is filled with newfound hope of becoming the strongest individual in the world. However, the underlying reasons behind his ambition remain enigmatic, leaving us eagerly anticipating future revelations. As we conclude our venture, let us depart from this world for now. Remember, our agents should relay events thus. In this final reckoning, I will grant you back your AI, so that way you can return to this world.
If you're finding this story engaging, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to discuss the unfolding narrative and hear your thoughts. And if you're enjoying the tales shared, don't forget to hit that like button. For more captivating stories like this, simply click on any of the links by my side, and together, let's dive into more immersive worlds. Your feedback and interaction make this journey all the more exciting.